Now, yesterday, of course, we learned of the tragic deaths of 7 aid workers in the war zone in Gaza, including the Australian Zomi Frankom, following what was an Israeli airstrike. Anthony Albanese, the Prime Minister, after he announced the new Governor-General today, revealed that he'd spoken to Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu over the phone, demanding full accountability. Here's the PM.
I expressed Australia's anger and concern at the death of Zomi Frankom. This is completely unacceptable. The Israeli government has accepted responsibility for this, and Prime Minister Netanyahu conveyed his condolences to the family of Zomi Frankom and to Australia.
Just thinking about it, and I watched that live today, it was a little odd to combine the launch of a new Governor-General, announcement of a new Governor-General, with that news about the Israeli defence attack. Now, the IDF have issued an apology for the strike, saying it was a case of, quote, misidentification. Joining me to discuss this, the foreign editor of The Australian, Greg Sheridan. Greg, thanks for joining us. What do you make of the IDF's explanation of what went on here?
Well, Steve, I think, first of all, it is a shocking and terrible tragedy, and our heart goes out to the family of the murdered of the deceased aid worker. Aid workers are the bravest people in the world, and they deserve nothing but our honour. The Prime Minister is right to express the nation's distress, but you know, Israel alone among the actors in any of this will take responsibility for what's happened here. You have to believe this was a tragic accident. To have done this intentionally would be a heinous war crime. Israel doesn't do that. And also it would be unspeakably stupid, because nothing has damaged Israel more politically and strategically since the beginning of hostilities. So I believe it was a tragic accident. It is also the case, Albanese and Penny Wong should remember, that there's not a single conflict in which Australia has been involved in which our troops have not inadvertently killed civilians. War is terrible and full of grief, but sometimes it's unavoidable. And while I think Albanese and Wong are right to express the nation's feelings and to demand a very thorough inquiry, a searching scrutiny of what happened, I think they're wrong to use this as an excuse to change our policy towards Israel. Israel's policy is no different today from what it was a week ago. And if we were supportive of Israel a week ago, we should still be supportive of them trying to destroy Hamas today. But of course, they have to act within the laws of war. And I believe they tried to. I certainly don't think this was intentional.
I think that's an excellent point you make about Australian troops in combat and mistakenly killing civilians. That has happened. On the PM being very quick to pick up the phone to Netanyahu, correct me here, am I right to remember that he wasn't that quick to get on the phone on October 7 after the terror attack that started all this?
Well, I've been very critical of the Albanese government. It seems like they feel all the time as though they had to support Israel, but their heart was never in it. The PM wouldn't go there. Penny Wong, when she went there, wouldn't visit the sites of the kibbutzes where the shocking, sadistic, mutilating and murder of so many innocent Israelis took place. I don't mind the PM being quick off the draw about an Australian citizen. That's quite right. I mean, no Prime Minister has a greater responsibility than the life and welfare of Australian citizens. And this terrible tragedy is, it's right that he focus on this. That's all right. But I think all along the Albanese government has been politically embarrassed about having to give some support to Israel. Their heart has never been in it. Their heart has never been in the battle against anti-Semitism. The atrocities weren't over, and Penny Wong was urging restraint on Israel. They didn't even take a full 24 hours just to weep at the atrocities of October 7. But I don't want to contrast their actions then with their actions of today, because it's quite right that they focus on this Australian citizen. But I am broadly critical of them in the way they've handled the Australian policy towards Israel and Gaza. And I think it's wrong to use the tragedy of this death to change our policy, that doesn't make any sense.
Just before you go, just briefly, Greg, Joe Biden, Xi Jinping on the phone today, chatting about how they can cooperate amid global tensions. Phone call took place Tuesday. It was revealed by the White House press corps about what exactly happened. How important is that phone call in the context of where the world's at right now?
Well, it's a good thing for the President of China and the President of the United States to talk. That's absolutely a good thing. The Chinese, when they were most deeply into wolf warrior diplomacy, wouldn't talk to the Americans, wouldn't talk to us. And they've refused ever to set up a proper military hotline with the Americans, refused to set up proper protocols about incidents at sea and how to de-escalate them and incidents in the air. But for the moment, they're playing the charm game, even though none of their strategic policies or aggressive actions have changed. But it is unambiguously a good thing for the President of China and the President of the United States to be talking to each other, and it mobilises their bureaucracies to talk to each other. It authorises the Chinese to have serious dialogue. So it doesn't solve all our problems, but it's definitely a bit of good news.
Good on you, Greg Sheridan. Thank you very much for joining us tonight.
Thanks.